Another Sunday, another episode of the Daryl Dixon Show. This show, we get to see a little bit more of France. We get to go to the Eiffel Tower. We get some cool zombie scenes. There's a lot to like in this episode, but also, I think that this episode starts to show a few of the cracks in the storyline. There's a lot of emphasis on Isabelle's ex-boyfriend. He's a major part of this episode, and I think that they didn't really set that up properly in order to have the payoffs that we get in this episode. So I have some issues, and there's also coincidences and the normal Walking Dead stuff that I have issues with. But there's definitely a lot to like about the show as well, and we get some fun Daryl moments as well. But each scene kind of has a nitpick thing that I point to as a professional nitpicker here on Shook Earth Media. That's what we do here. So we're going to be nitpicking a little bit. So this episode, I think I was riding high on Daryl Dixon, is very much above par for the Walking Dead franchise lately, spinoffs especially. I think we're still on that trajectory. I'm a little frustrated. It's another episode. We still don't have any explanation for how Daryl got over here or why he's in France or anything. We don't know the CRM. We don't know anything about running zombies. There's a lot of things that they're dangling before us, like little carrots to keep us watching the show, that I'm ready to see explained, and that's one of the frustrations in this episode. But instead, we're focusing on trying to find Laurent and getting him back from, spoiler alert, his captors. But of course, spoiler alert for this whole video, because we're going to be breaking it down here. So let me know what you guys think of the episode, and with that, we're going to break right into it. So we got this opening teaser scene here. One of the major themes of the show, I think, is Daryl getting a little bit of his faith back, whether that's faith in humanity or faith in a higher power, something. Daryl needs to get faith back. And one of the things in this opening scene is seeing Laurent, the miracle child that a lot of people see hope in, and he's kind of the future for a lot of people. He represents a lot of things. He's a new messiah. So we get a little bit of justification for that. We've been sprinkling in a little bit throughout the show so far. The miracle birth, his mother became a zombie and he was born into the world that way. And you see a couple other things in the previous episode. So we need to show Daryl this side of Laurent. But we don't want it to actually be like, oh, he's actually super powered. We want to leave it ambiguous. So they're trying to walk that line with this scene here. So what they have is a bunch of zombies coming in, and we're underground yet again. Although it's cool because we're in Paris. I like the spooky shadows and stuff, so I'll take a little repetition for that. But there's zombies closing in every which way, and they seem to be surrounding Laurent. There's no way he's going to survive. And then he basically puts his hands in like a prayer position and puts his head down. He doesn't make noise, and I think that's the justification for it, is he's not making noise, he's not moving around, so maybe he blends in, looks like a zombie. We've seen them do the guts trick before. Some people are just going to see this scene and just not accept it. I will accept it because, miracles do happen. And by that, I mean just strange occurrences, things that shouldn't happen. These things do happen in real life sometimes. I'll take it. I think it's fair enough to have one of these scenes in here. Now, they almost seem, again, to do that later in the episode, but they do something slightly different. But if they do something like this again, it's going to be one of my nitpicks. But I will take it. But again, coincidences, okay? In this first scene, Daryl is underground. He fell through the roof at the end of the previous episode. I forgot to mention that in my last review. It was very laughable because he didn't even try to escape falling in the roof. So we don't cut anything to do with him falling through the roof. We just cut to this, and he just so happens to be in the same place as Laurent. It's a coincidence, but I guess they're in the same area. Fine, I guess we'll take it. But again, coincidences plus a miracle. And then Daryl sees Laurent walk away, and then we smash cut to him in water. And I'm a little confused. I feel displaced here. And I think we saw this scene in a glimpse of it in the first episode. They had a flash when Daryl was in the bath and getting washed. He had a moment where he was floating in the water. And I'm thinking that was footage from this episode. I could be wrong. But it really does seem like that was symbolic when they showed it the first time. Because he's a lost soul, he's looking for meaning, and that's kind of who he is in this show right now. But we get to see him fight some zombies underwater, which is fun. I like him stabbing zombies, but I was just a little distracted, how did he even end up here? The zombie seemed like it was biting his leg, like he got bit or something, but I guess not. So, I don't know. That scene it just threw me for a loop that he's all of a sudden in water. I was a bit confused. But here we got him walking through the city again, and then he's searching for, of course, Isabelle's apartment where they agreed to meet at the end of the last episode. Daryl actually walks by and sees somebody playing the violin in their apartment with an open window. Which, again, we're getting this theme of keeping art and culture alive. That's something that's been throughout the show so far, and that's another symbol of that. But based on Walking Dead logic, we're breaking the logic here a little bit. Sound draws zombies, so there would be a crowd of zombies around if you're just playing violin constantly with an open window. It's going to draw attention that you don't want. So that, I don't know, that bothered me that there weren't zombies outside the window or something. So I don't know. And then we're back at that community that we were at last episode with the rooftop community. And this woman here who recently lost her husband, she was comforted by Laurent. That's another one of the miracle scenes that we got with the kid Laurent to prove, he's the miracle child. So she tells them that he's the Messiah, basically, and he gives them hope and stuff. And the soldiers decide that Laurent is the new target. The American, he's almost like secondary at this point because the boy gives the rebellion hope. So we need to take that hope away. That made sense to me. And, we got this scene here. Part of me's like, would that woman really say those things? Wouldn't she want to keep it a secret? But I don't know. I guess, maybe if she had like a loved one she was concerned for, I would say something else. But I don't know. It just seemed like force a little bit. I don't know that she would want to give all that information up. And then there's a baby crying in the crowd, and I don't remember this lady's name, but the lady who looks exactly like the World Beyond villain, she grabs the baby and is shushing the baby. And part of me was just like, the mother would not let that happen. And the mother is like fights a little bit and then gives up. But she would fight tooth and nail. And I get that there's soldiers here with guns pointed at them. I get that. But listen, okay, mothers are like no other force on the planet. They will not stop. Okay, so you have to show a little bit more fight in there from a directing standpoint. It just bothered me. It just really, and it's supposed to bother you because you're supposed to be disturbed that this lady who seems so ruthless is shushing a child. Like it's supposed to feel wrong. And she's definitely not the type of person who has a loving mindset, even though she's portraying that in that moment for some reason. So here we got the Pigeon Man that we were introduced to last week. Another coincidence. So there's a lot of coincidences in this episode. Bothers me a little bit. And he's got his pigeons with him on his bicycle, and he happens to run into Daryl. And then, he tells Daryl that the soldiers came back. And then another coincidence, just so happens, another soldier truck drives by. And then they leave the bike by the side of the road, and then they hide. And then the soldiers, like, on a dime, stop the truck and like, oh, look, a bike. And for me, like, driving by, I wouldn't even notice that there's a bike there, let alone, like, they want the pigeons for food, fair enough. How did they even know there were pigeons there? They're driving in a truck that's really loud. They can't hear the cooing, okay? And they can't even see it from the angle that they are looking at. It doesn't make any sense. They just go straight for the bike. There's nothing special about the bike. I swear, there are other bikes in the background. Like, if I drove past a bike, unless I'm looking for a bike that I need to drive around, or maybe that one of them has a kid and needs it for their kid or something, but that would be another coincidence, but I don't know, it just bothered me. And then it's supposed to be a tragic scene. We got this Pigeon Man that we've kind of grown to like. And I like the actor and the way he has charisma and the way he speaks. He's a likable guy. So he gets shot by the soldier, just to show how ruthless they are. Again, I think it's a little bit too much. It's a little lacks a little nuance. But, I'll take that. We want them to be the villains this season. That's fine. But he wanted to save his pigeons, so he stood in front of the truck. And then he asked Daryl to let the pigeons go. But, I just had trouble getting into this scene just because of all the things I mentioned. The coincidence, the going straight for the pigeons. Like, I just didn't understand what was going on. But he lets the pigeons go. And that's one of the symbols in this episode a lot is freedom. We get the Statue of Liberty. There's actually two statues of liberty. There is one in France as well. There's one in New York. I think it's kind of cool that they have the Statue of Liberty, since they also had the Statue of Liberty in the final episode of Dead City, even though they used it very sparingly, and you can go see my review for talking about the symbolism there. But we're talking about freedom here. What does it mean to be free? And that's kind of the major overarching theme. I wish I got a little deeper into that, but it's nice to have some little symbolism and allusions here. Then we got Isabelle and Daryl meeting back up, and they kind of apologize to each other a little bit for their argument last week. And then they're talking about Laurent, and Daryl says he knows where he is because Laurent talked a lot about the Eiffel Tower. He doesn't know anything about Paris, but the Eiffel Tower you can see from a distance. So he knows that he can just walk that direction and eventually get to it. So that it makes sense. Fair enough. So we're back here in the bar with Quinn, the ex-boyfriend of Isabelle, and he is acting cold to his new beau, the singer at the bar. She and him are in a relationship, but now that Isabelle's back, he's acting icy. And I guess we'll just get into here. His major motivation in this episode is he wants to get back with Isabelle. And I just don't feel that that is justified based on what they've shown us so far. He doesn't strike me as a guy who's terribly sentimental about things. He wanted to leave his girlfriend's sister and also the mother of his child and his baby. We find out that he was cheating on Isabelle last week, so he didn't even like her that much to begin with. He was going to leave his child on the side of the road, and now all of a sudden his main motivation in life is I got to get back with Isabelle. It just doesn't. I don't know. I guess maybe he's controlling or something. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. But he wants to get to Laurent, which I understand that a bit more. You know, his child and stuff. But we saw him abandon his baby in the first episode this guy was in. So I don't know, man. It doesn't work for me. But basically, the singer isn't liking how distant he's being, and she's like, we need a reason, women need a reason to stay and stuff, you know, basically kind of threatening him, which he kind of ignores, which, you know, I guess fair enough, he's that kind of person. But yeah, they're going after Laurent, and we'll get back to that later. So now we are on our way to the Eiffel Tower, and it's really cool to see the Eiffel Tower. I love it, seeing the imagery, and they've done really well with aging up everything and making everything look overgrown, and especially for television, you know, we get pretty wide sight lines for what we're used to seeing on The Walking Dead. So I gotta give it the thumbs up for the cinematic value, and I love that they spared no expense on the show. I think it's, you know, above and beyond what we're used to seeing from Walking Dead, which is awesome. But there's a horde of zombies right outside the Eiffel Tower, and they were supposedly trapped behind sandbags and barrels. And then Laurent peeks in through a little eye hole, and that's enough to make them all of a sudden they are all able to get out. And it's just like, there was not like a vehicle driving by, there wasn't like a loud predator bird, there wasn't some other noise or something distracting them for this whole time. Like, how long has this horde been there? They look like they've been there for a long time. So just all of a sudden, now a kid looking through a little hole is enough. And standard zombies don't even really look down like that. And we get another thing where the zombie like crawls down to where Laurent is hiding later in this scene. That's just not really standard zombie behavior as we've defined it on Walking Dead. Now we got variants in the mix, so maybe it's a new variant, but we haven't seen climbers on this show yet, so I don't think that it's fair to say that that is a variant just based on that. I think they're just forgetting the rules of how zombies work. You know, with the violin thing earlier in the episode, I don't know, it's driving me nuts a little bit. So it's a big coincidence. But I thought they were going to do the thing again with Laurent just doing the prayer hands and getting surrounded. If that happened, I would have laughed out loud. This episode would lower a few scores. But at least they let Laurent do something different. He hid under like a little piece of debris. Didn't seem like he had enough distance or time to do that without getting seen by the zombies. But I'll give that part a pass. But Daryl and Isabelle, another coincidence is they just happened to show up right on time to save him from all these. Like, it's driving me nuts. There's so many coincidences in this episode. The more we go through it, the more I'm remembering, oh man, there really are a ton. And another coincidence, these guys that Quinn sent to get Laurent show up just on time. And my first thought was, how did they even know? I mean, at first I was like, are they soldiers? Are they Quinn's guys? But I was like, how did they even know that they would be here at this time? They did have an explanation for that, and I actually really appreciate that. The singer girl, she was talking about the Eiffel Tower with Laurent. In the last episode, she gave him the necklace of the Eiffel Tower. That's a connection. Thank you for an explanation. I appreciate that. Yeah, I can take the victories when I can, please. So basically, the guys kidnap Laurent. That's an overused storyline in Walking Dead. We get a lot of kidnappings, but it's justified here. I'll take it. But there's one guy left behind by the crew, by Quinn's crew, and they lock him in the room. Now, this scene, it's, an interrogation, torture scene, and the idea here is that, Isabelle is a nun. She's has a purity to her, even though she has this past where she's done shady things. She has this moral system. She's religious. She doesn't believe in violence, etc., except for when it's necessary. But in this scene, we need to show Daryl is a little bit obviously edgier. He's got a little bit more of the moral gray stuff going on from the original series. That's understandable. So we need to break through Isabelle a little bit, I suppose, is the idea here. But it falls a little flat to me because, we're asking this guy, what does Quinn want with the kid and all that? And I don't really understand why he doesn't just give up the information right away. Like, it would make sense if it was like a war situation and he's trying to defend his family or somebody important to him. I don't know that he should have this much loyalty for just, some random group that he's a part of. I don't know. It just, and also, it seems like it's something that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody at the other end is going to die. I don't mean it's like a nun and another guy. I don't know. I feel like he would have just given it up right away. But we need to have this scene, just for its character reasons. But another thing is, like, Isabelle doesn't even really try to stop Daryl once he starts doing the torture thing. It doesn't feel right to me, and I wanted her to show a bit more morality with her current, moral system. I don't like it. I would have preferred her to, at least try to stop Daryl. But I don't know, it seemed a bit much to me. Now we're with Quinn and Laurent, and they're being nice to the kid, giving him candy and talking to him, and, telling him that Isabelle's going to come here. And also the girlfriend who kind of intimated that she wants to leave Quinn. Quinn gives her the task of babysitting the kid. I don't know. It doesn't seem like great decision making, but I guess maybe this dude's in his own world. He's a goofball. He just doesn't get it. But in this torture scene here, Daryl tells a story of somebody named Jimmy who was a neighbor of his that people used to pick on, and his dad was a drunk, and his dad gave him a pig to be a pet, and then eventually he forced the kid to kill the pig for dinner, basically. And basically the kid was trying to not hurt him, so he did it slow, and that led to a lot more pain over the course of time. And it's basically just a threat. But Isabelle says after this scene that little kid was you, wasn't it? And Daryl immediately says, no, I made all that up. So I actually don't know which part of Daryl's telling the truth. Is he telling the truth in this scene, or is he telling the truth later when he says all of it's made up? Maybe Isabelle was actually right. I don't know. I'm curious to see if they follow up on that. But it's a good scene. I like to see Daryl, doing shady stuff. But another thing is, like, they want us to believe that this guy is, like, this horrible guy. And I just don't see it necessarily. I don't see, other than being a jerk to Isabelle. Like, he tells Isabelle that, he knows about her past. And at first I was like, that's another coincidence. Just two people in a huge city with millions of people just happen to know each other. But, of course, he's part of Quinn's crew, so that makes sense. And Isabelle susses out, I know where he's from, etc., and I know who has Laurent right away, which, that's, again, the guy giving up information, so I don't know. So this guy's a bit of a jerk, right? I get that. But he doesn't seem like evil. I mean, he's doing the bidding of Quinn. Quinn says, hey, my son's out there, can you go get him? And they do, and they don't know who these people are, so that they obviously just try to drive away from them. They don't kill them or anything. I don't know. I don't get how we're supposed to justify that this guy is like this terrible guy, because we get this basically scene later where Daryl leaves him for the mob. And it just, I didn't like that scene either, because, I get Daryl's a moral gray guy, but here you can justify Daryl doing something shady in this interrogation scene because he's doing it to save a child. Later on, he's just doing it for his own convenience. It's something like that we showed Shane doing in the past, and that was a reason not to like Shane. So I don't know the morality of it. Like, what is so bad about this guy exactly? I don't know. He just works at a nightclub and is just doing what he's told to do. I don't get it. So at the end of this scene, Isabelle says that she knows what Quinn wants with Laurent. She assumes that Quinn wants her back, which is a weird thing, again, like we talked about earlier. I don't know why she would jump to that first, because this guy's characterized as somebody who's selfish and transactional. And Daryl learned earlier in the episode that the soldiers want the kid. So I would assume that he wants to use the kid as leverage to get something from the soldiers. I wouldn't assume right away that he definitely wants to get back with her. It's a weird motivation. I don't really get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But we talked about that enough already. So here we're meeting up with the rebels. Fallow is the leader's name, and they're gearing up to assault the nightclub. And Sylvie here has a new boyfriend, and they kiss in this scene. It's a nice subplot, but I'm not really invested because they just kind of threw it in there last week. But, fair enough. We want to have this character who trying to find her place in the world, and she's been displaced by, she's not a nun anymore. So I get that. It's an interesting part of the storyline, but again, it's just thrown in here. I thought he was going to die in this episode because of Walking Dead has trained me to see happiness on the show. Okay, they're about to die then. But yeah, then we're gearing up to assault the nightclub, like I said. And I gotta say, I just don't know that it's really justified. I would think that they could attempt a peaceful solution to that and negotiate, but I don't know. I get saving Laurent, but it would make more sense if they thought Laurent was going to get traded to the soldiers, instead of Isabelle saying that, he wants me, that's what he really wants. It's a little weird. And they also take the guy from the interrogation. The guy from the interrogation is like, I'll draw you a map, and they're like, no, we're taking you with us. And that's just asking for trouble. It doesn't seem like the logical, sensible thing to do. Although if you let him go, he's going to go back to the nightclub and warn them that they're coming. So maybe he can't do that. Maybe it does make sense after all. Maybe I've just talked myself out of my own criticism. That's fine. We got a little scene with Isabelle and Sylvie, and they're talking about, romance. Isabelle says she's not interested in Daryl like that. And based on this scene, I'm assuming that they maybe want that to happen in the future. But they've tried a lot of different times to kind of give Daryl a love interest, and it hasn't really worked out. So I don't know that I really want to see that, but I guess if you build to it, maybe. But we'll have to see how that shakes out. But I don't know. I'm not really all that enthusiastic about a love storyline with Daryl, to be honest with you. And then we see the soldiers at the nightclub, and here's where like, okay, yeah, he is trying to trade Laurent for something from the soldiers, but it turns out to be, no, he's just saying he can get the American. And I want a Monet painting because Isabelle likes Monet paintings, I guess. I don't know. Again, it's just weird. I don't know that I really understand this side of the storyline. And now we're with Daryl going into some more tunnels. So we get a lot of tunnels in the franchise lately, but it's cool looking. I dig it. And we're now assaulting the nightclub, and it just feels to me like we could have diverted them away without killing people. I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. What is so bad? Like, these guys aren't the soldiers, right? This is a separate group. They have a deal with the soldiers that they can exist, but these guys aren't the same group of people just ruthlessly killing people left and right. These guys are just defending a nightclub. I don't know why they deserve to die. It just doesn't feel right, And of course, the captive guy tries to run away from Daryl because, of course, he does. It's predictable. And he ends up breaking a bone while he's trying to escape. And I swear we've seen this happen on Walking Dead before. I can't place it right now, but I swear we've seen this exact scene before. And then Daryl, he's thinking about trying to save him maybe, but then, of course we got zombies coming in. It's a great line when Daryl says bon appetit. Like, that's a fucking great line. I love that. But again, it just doesn't feel right to me. I don't feel like this guy's really evil, and it does feel wrong for Daryl to do this. And at the very least, Daryl could have, like, euthanized him so he didn't have to get eaten alive. But I don't know. I didn't really like this part, to be honest with you. It just felt wrong. And here we are assaulting the base, and this feels wrong too. I don't know. Maybe it's just my moral sensibilities that make it feel wrong, but I kind of want Daryl to be a hero at this point in the franchise, especially with his own show. It just doesn't feel right. And here we got the girl defending Laurent, and she won't shoot, which is like, of course she won't. And the guy should have known that, but maybe he's distracted. And the other thing is, like, this other entrance into the nightclub is not guarded at all, but I guess the diversion is supposed to be the justification for that. Because of the attack at the front, everybody who's available is out front. They abandon this back entrance, which isn't even really like a back entrance. Daryl has to break through something, but it's enough that everybody here knows about it, and the random soldier guy knew about it. So I don't know, just a nitpick, I suppose. And then we got this cool fight scene on the walkway, which I do like the setting of it. The fact that we're on this walkway, it's rickety, and it's a good set. But I was just like, why doesn't this nightclub owner have a weapon on him, a knife? I mean, even outside the apocalypse, I don't know. Like, there's an assault going on out front, and it's like, pew, 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 pew. This dude doesn't have a gun on him. This dude doesn't have a knife on him. Doesn't have anything. I don't know. And then Daryl has this moment where he's got a knife to the guy's throat. He's thinking about killing him, but then Laurent causes him to be more merciful. So, I like that the kid is the motivation for Daryl being a little bit more peaceful. But would he have done that if the kid wasn't there? I don't think so. Which, based on the previous scene to that, I don't know if, like, Daryl is in love with Isabelle, or that's what they're going for, and that's why he is so angry at this guy, but I don't know. Again, I don't know. It didn't really feel right. But now we got Laurent, we got the reunion, and now we're going on the boat. We're escaping now. And apparently the soldiers have posted guards at every exit to the city. I don't know the geography of Paris and if how feasible that is to really block off the city so you can't escape. But I'm curious to see if they show us next week. But Isabelle's going to go back to Quinn because Quinn is an influential guy. She's going to give him what he wants so that maybe he can get some attention for Laurent. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems a little weird. Like, would Quinn even trust her after the whole, some of his people were murdered thing? And I don't know. It's weird. And then we're going on the boat. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. And we're saying our goodbyes. And then we're driving on the water. And I love the aesthetics of driving on the water. And then at the end, we see the Statue of Liberty, which is really cool. Which I like to see the Statue of Liberty. It's a symbol of freedom. What does it mean to be free, etc. And we didn't even get to see it from the front in Dead City. We only saw it from the back. And that show is basically the symbol of the illusion of freedom being behind you, in a sense. So it was had a symbolic purpose in that. But I think it's cool that now we see the Statue of Liberty, and it's yet another connection between America and France. So it's nice to see that book ended in this show. And I do think that they did it intentionally, knowing Dead City was also happening. At least I hope so. But that was a cool way to end the episode, and I'm looking forward to next week. Let me know if you guys agree with my criticisms of this episode, too many coincidences, etc. And if you didn't agree with me, that's okay too. But with that, it's been your boy Shuggy, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.